9 spine-chilling babysitter nightmares. What I discovered in that sinister house still haunts me. Jessica stood at the Matthews door, heart racing. The fog curled around her like fingers, a whisper of something sinister left unchecked. She could feel its chill even before stepping inside. It was just a babysitting gig, one she'd done many times before. But tonight felt different. The air was thick with a warning, almost pleading. The Matthews house was enormous, its warm lights flickering like candles but somehow casting longer shadows. She'd been welcomed with cheerful smiles and childish giggles that echoed in the spacious rooms. Little did she know, beneath the family's perfect facade lay a chilling legacy, one that clung to the walls. "What's wrong, Jess?" asked Mr. Matthews, concerned at her hesitation. She shook her head, forcing a smile to mask her unease. The kids Lily and Sam were already racing up the stairs, giggling in playful delight. Jessica spent the early evening tucking them into bed, reading bedtime stories, feeling the familiar peace settle in her heart. But it all shifted when the clock struck midnight, the TV light flickered in the otherwise silent living room, shadows dancing at the edges. Then came the whispers. Soft murmurs slithered through the hallway, tickling the back of her neck, making her stomach drop. She glanced toward the darkened corners, creaking sounds intensifying like a warning. "It's probably just the wind," she told herself. But deep down, dread nestled in. When she checked in on the kids, Lily's big eyes were wide. "He's watching us," she whispered, clutching her stuffed bear as though it was the only thing anchoring her to this reality. "Who's watching?" Jessica laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. But as they cuddled together, the tension in the room thickened. It was palpable, a suffocating cloud of dread. Jessica's mind raced. That's not how little kids should act. Something was buried deep in the corners, just beyond reach. It finally hit her, between the lurking shadows and their fearful glances, the chilling legends that gripped Willow Creek. Tales of darkness creeping into the lives of seemingly perfect families. Tales that she thought were just stories, driven by a mix of curiosity and fear. She ascended the staircase. Each footstep felt like a drumbeat echoing in a still night. Up in the attic, the air turned stale and oppressive. A shiver ran down her spine. Among cobwebs and dusty boxes, she found pinned newspaper articles. With trembling hands, she flipped through them, her blood running cold. "Local girl vanishes without a trace." Jessica fumbled back, the shock hitting her hard. There it was, the face of her cheerful classmate Sarah. The creeping realization clawed at her insides. What if this house held more than just bad memories? What if it was still hungry? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. Terror gripped her as she turned to face the staircase. The whispers grew louder, swirling through the darkness. It felt like someone or something was watching her. Heart pounding in her chest, she peered into the empty attic shadows. But there was nothing until she saw it, a figure standing just inside the doorway, shrouded in gloom, her breath caught, frozen in fear. The man in the shadows. Jessica's grip tightened, panic rising. Did anyone know about this place? Could she save the children, or was it too late? The weight of uncertainty spiraled around her as she stood on the brink of the unfathomable. The night was just beginning, and dread hummed softly, a sinister lullaby that promised a chilling revelation waiting just out of sight. Jessica's mind screamed at her to run, but her legs refused to budge. She was trapped in that moment, heart racing, eyes locked on the figure. Its outline was dark, almost melded with the shadows. She squinted, trying to see its face, but the figure remained obscured, a black cloak of fear that draped over her senses. "Who's there?" she whispered, her voice trembling, barely a breath above the whispers surrounding her. The figure didn't respond, didn't move, just stood there, a smirk perhaps etched in the darkness. She thought about the kids. What if that thing was inside the house, watching them? What if it was the reason Lily felt watched? She needed to protect them. The realization sparked something in her legs, and she tore away from the attic, racing down the stairs, nearly tripping, but adrenaline kept her moving faster than fear. The living room felt different now, the cozy glow around her transforming into a sinister warmth. The whispers morphed into faint cries, echoing, swirling into a haunting chorus. "Help me" floated through the air, melding with the shadows that crept closer. She rushed toward the children's room, pushing the door open with a forceful shove. The two little figures were still in their beds, eyes closed, but their unmistakable unease was palpable. Jessica knelt beside Lily, took her tiny hand, squeezing it firmly. "It's okay, sweetie. I'm right here." Lily stirred, her eyes fluttering open, fear alive within them. "He was here, Jess, he was right there," she shrieked, pointing weakly to the window. Jessica turned, heart stalling as she met the dark glass, the fog outside now swirling violently. "Just the wind," she assured, though the tremor in her voice belied her words. A hollow laugh echoed from the darkness outside, chilling her to the bone. As if the fog were alive, it shuddered, creeping closer to the simple home. The trees groaned against the wind, branches clawing at the windows as though something forced them to reach inside. Suddenly, Sam's muffled cry broke through the thick atmosphere. "Jess, the teddy bear!" he shouted, eyes wide, pointing at the corner of the room. Jessica turned to see the stuffed bear, an old, worn-out thing sitting upright, its button eyes glinting in the dim light like obsidian shards. It couldn't be she remembered it from the attic, among the shadows of her childhood dreams. Only it wasn't a dream, was it? Was this bear a gateway, a connection to whatever lurked in the corners? The weight of the world settled onto her chest. Without thinking, she tossed the bear into the hallway. The moment it crossed the threshold of the room, the shadows surged, clawing toward it, swallowing the fabric of reality. The whispers intensified, desperate for release. Jessica grabbed the children and pulled them toward the back of the room. "Stay close. Don't let go," she yelled. The whispers echoed, blending into a sinister laugh as the walls seemed to close in around them. Fear clawed at her, a primal instinct to flee, yet nowhere felt safe. Suddenly, the laughter stopped, silence. An eerie calm wrapped around her like a shroud. Was it the quiet before the storm? Jessica felt an unsettling weight in the air, a pressure building with every heartbeat. Then a light, not from the window, but from behind her. Slowly, she turned, dread pooling in her stomach. The figure was there again, now illuminated by the dim glow radiating from the teddy bear. Its eyes gleamed with an otherworldly hunger, a menace that leaned closer, reaching for her. Jessica's heart raced. She had to fight, had to protect them. But in that moment, the room began to spin. The dark figure advanced. What would happen next? As she stumbled back, she realized the worst terror of all. She might not be able to protect the children from the darkness closing in, and the night was far from over. The figure posed like a statue, but the air was thick with malevolence, pressing down on Jessica like a weight she couldn't shake off. She felt the walls close in, but she couldn't let herself be trapped. Not now. Not when her children were in reach. Lily. Sam. She screamed, her voice tearing through the suffocating quiet. "Get behind me." They were frozen, wide eyes locked on the approaching darkness. With a rush of determination, she grabbed their hands, pulling them close as she felt the breath of the entity ghosting against her skin. "Don't look at it," she urged loudly. "Don't look." But they were transfixed, terror rooting them to the spot. With her back pressed against the wall, she searched for something, anything that could help. Her gaze darted around the room, desperate. Then she spotted the corner of a small, wooden chair. Grabbing it, she lifted it overhead, feeling the weight of the wood reinforcing her resolve. "Get away from us." She hurled the chair toward the figure. It sailed through the air, but instead of shattering, it just passed through the figure like vapor, and her heart sank. That laugh, twisted and amused, returned, ringing out, filling the void left by the chair's failure. "What are you?" she shouted, trying to grasp at its essence. The figure shifted slightly, and the darkness seemed to swirl, pulling into a tighter form, revealing the glint of something sharp, a toothy smile laden with malice, stretching beyond what should be humanly possible. "You seek to save them," the figure hissed, the voice like shards of ice scraping against her ears. It was mocking, the sound of a nightmare come to life. "You have no power here, mortal. Shut up," Jessica yelled, pushing her children behind her, stepping forward instinctively. Somewhere in her mind, she felt a flicker of the strength she once had, the power of a mother willing to face anything, but the figure advanced, darkness pooling like oil, thickening the air. The past lingers, it breathed, the words curling around her like smoke. "Do you remember?" Jessica felt a rush of memories flood her, the old bear from her childhood, the attic, the laughter of long-forgotten voices, the comfort they once held now corrupted into horror. "No!" she cried, smelling the musty scent of age and decay roll off the figure, dragging her heart down into despair. Then came a whisper, too low for her children to hear, slithering into her mind. "They are only shadows, waiting to be free. All they need is a little push." The room began to shake, as if responding to its words. A cold wind rushed through, slamming the door shut. The children's fear wrapped around Jessica, giving her both strength and sorrow. "I won't let you take them," Jessica screamed, another instinct rising. "I'll fight you." As she stood her ground, flickers of light danced across the room, illuminating the childhood memories carved into the woodwork and walls. Shadows flickered behind the figure, warping and writhing, mimicking the lost souls of children. Were they pleading? Or ready to consume? The balance felt fragile, the weight of moments shifting as she stood on the precipice of despair and defiance. Something was coming to her, pulling her thoughts. Was it familiar? A warmth in this tidal wave of dread. Suddenly, a flicker of light burst forth from the teddy bear, growing in intensity. The shadows recoiled, screeching as if burned. In that split second of escape, a thought shot through her. What if this bear was not just a key, but an anchor? But with the thought, seconds slipped away, urgency demanding action. Would she harness its power to protect her children or let the shadows consume all? As the darkness writhed closer, Jessica took a deep breath, ready to act. Would she find the strength to fight back, or would the darkness swallow everything she loved? Jessica's heart raced as the shadows lunged, hungry and desperate. The light radiating from the teddy bear brightened, illuminating the twisted form of the figure before her. She felt the heat prick her skin, an electric promise that this was no ordinary toy. Panic clawed at her throat, urging her to act decisively. "Lily, Sam, stay close," she barked, tightening her grip on their hands as she moved toward the bear. With every step, the malevolent figure recoiled, its toothy grin turning into a snarl, a grotesque mockery of a smile. "I want to let you take my children." The darkness writhed, tendrils reaching out as if to snare her, and Jessica felt the air grow thick with despair. The shadows whispered promises of freedom, lies that chilled her to the bone. Images of her children succumbed to terror played in her mind, visions far worse than anything she could bear. In a desperate attempt, she grasped the bear tightly. "You can't have them," she shouted, her voice now taking on a power of its own. The bear absorbed her words, its fur glowing brighter, casting a warm aura that cut through the smoky haze. "Power? You think you have power?" The figure hissed with contempt, its voice slithering into the room like a serpent. "You are merely a vessel for their fear." The very walls trembled. Jessica felt an icy draft wrap around her, reminding her of the memories. Warmth turned cold, laughter turned to screams. But there was no time to linger. She took a breath and remembered what she had to protect. Face it. You're just a shadow. You don't belong here. She countered, channeling every ounce of defiance into her voice. The bear pulsed in her grasp, and suddenly, the light extended outward like a shield. The darkness hissed, a screeching sound that pierced through the air as it fought against the light. Shadows twisted, morphing into grotesque shapes that spun wildly, as if panicking in the presence of her resolve. A feeling of exhilaration surged within her. She could truly defy this terror, push it back. Now, Lily. Sam. Close your eyes, hold on tight. She commanded, turning the bear outward, aiming its light at the figure. The moment ignited hope rumbling through her core with each heartbeat. As the light reached the vile form, it elongated, then pulsated like a dying star. The entity's grin twisted into a snare, revealing rows of jagged teeth. You think you can send me away? You will regret this. Enough. Jessica screamed. The barrier shimmered like glass, and just for a moment, she fancied seeing the shadow shift, weaken under the brilliance she held. But doubt sliced through her resolve, a familiar whisper settling in her mind. Would the light hold? Or would it falter like everything else? Suddenly, without warning, the door behind them slammed open. Jessica's heart dropped as the gust of unsettled air stirred the dust. She turned, briefly losing sight of the figure. A ragged silhouette loomed at the doorway, shrouded in darkness, but she could sense something even darker lurking in the void. Mom, Lily whimpered, her voice trembling, slicing through the tension with fear. Sam clamped his eyes shut, burying his face against Jessica's shirt, seeking solace in her presence. Don't look. She shouted again, a desperate plea as she glanced back to where the figure had been. It swayed, swirling, almost ethereal, instead of fading. Jessica's breath hitched, realizing her distraction had given the shadow a chance to regroup. No. Not now. She gasped, dragging her children instinctively closer. The shield flickered, barely holding against the encroaching chaos. Behind her, the new entity stirred, emanating a dark promise that made her blood run cold. They are mine now, it whispered, a voice smooth and sinister like molten silk. As the shadows danced and converged, weaving a tapestry of despair around them, Jessica understood that this battle was only beginning, and an even darker truth awaited. Would the bear's light be enough to fend off the gathering darkness, or would it betray her too when she needed it the most? She had to make a choice. A choice that could change everything. And as the figure loomed ever closer, she couldn't help but wonder who was truly behind the door, and what other horrors might it unleash. The shadows surged forward, twisting and writhing with an unnatural hunger, as Jessica stood at the precipice of a nightmare. She felt the pressing weight of dread wrap around her like a vice. The door swung wider, revealing a figure that seemed to seek malice. The air crackled with tension. Mom! Lily cried, her small voice quaking like a leaf in a storm. Panic rose in Jessica's chest. She needed to protect them, keep them safe from whatever grinned at them from the darkness. Hold the bear tight. Jessica shouted, a tremor threading through her voice. The bear glowed fiercely, pushing back against the encroaching walls of shadow. But the sinister figure at the door took a step forward, its features obscured by swirling darkness. Leave them be, Jessica, it cooed, a sickened sweetness to its tone. They're safer with me. Cold dread pooled in Jessica's stomach. Who was this creature? Was it the darkness that had been torturing their family, or was it something worse, something she had yet to understand? Stay away. She yelled, thrusting the bear forward as beams of light cut through the air, illuminating the room with a fierce glow. But the being merely laughed, an echoing sound that chilled her to her core. Suddenly, the bear felt heavier in her hands, the comforting light dimming ever so slightly. Jessica, you must choose, the entity murmured, its voice blended with the very shadows. Embrace your fear. Join me, and I can give you what you want. Jessica faltered for the briefest moment, heart pounding as temptation flickered. What if it spoke the truth? What if she could protect her children by surrendering to this horror? A swell of desperate hope struggled against the fear clawing at her throat. "Shut up!" she screamed, shaking her head violently. "I want to listen to you." The steadfast resolve surged to the surface like bubbling magma, fed by her love for her children. She clutched the bear tighter, forcing it to glow brighter. It worked. The light pierced through the encroaching darkness with righteous fury, sending twisted shadows scattering like insects under a glaring light. The figure at the door writhed in response, screeching with rage and frustration, but the struggle took its toll. Jessica felt her energy wavering, weariness creeping in as if the very shadows sought to drain her will. She glanced back at Lily and Sam, their faces pale, fear-stricken. They were on the verge of breaking, torn between the need for her protection and the allure of the Shadow's promises. "Don't give in," Jessica cried, her voice hoarse, but a flicker of reassurance colored her words. "You're strong. Remember that." A wisp of hope ignited in Lily's eyes while Sam remained hidden behind her. They were with her in this battle. But then the figure lunged, dashing through the threshold, its face contorting into a mask of rage, elongated and monstrous. "Your children belong to me. You are nothing." It screeched, Jessica's heart pounded. In that split second, time stretched. She realized she had to act before it was too late. She had one chance to trap the shadow, one chance to protect her children. "Now!" she yelled. Together, she squeezed the bear, pouring all her love, all her strength into its frail form. The bear pulsed with light, jagged and fierce, but would it be enough? The darkness surged forward, a ravenous tide threatening to swallow them whole. Jessica braced herself, instincts roaring for survival. As the light flared, she felt the imminent collision, the very essence of darkness against the radiating power of her love. What would break first? What consequences awaited if she failed? A deafening clash erupted as shadows and light collided, ripples of fear quaking through the air. The world around them was no longer stable, and everything she knew could shatter in an instant. In the chaos, a chilling whisper curled around her mind. If this fails, there's no return. Jessica was left wondering, could their bond withstand this trial, or was she awakening something far worse? Something that could drag them all into the endless night, and the last question echoed in that whirlwind of terror. Would she choose the light even if it meant facing the darkest part of her own soul? The world erupted in a cacophony of sound as light and shadow collided. Jessica felt a burning intensity in her chest. She was teetering on the brink of a chasm that threatened to swallow them all. The piercing glow from the bear flooded the room, illuminating her children's terrified faces. Each heartbeat echoed the dread closing in, each heavy second stretching into an eternity. "Jessica." Lily's voice cut through the chaos. "I'm scared." Jessica stumbled backward, shielding her daughter with her body. The shadows lashed out, slashing through the light like knives. The darkness shrieked, a tormented wail rising above the din. It clawed hungrily at her, leaving trails of icy despair on her skin as it brushed against her. "Stay close," she barked, panic clawing at her throat as she grappled with the creeping exhaustion threatening her resolve. Light flickered dangerously as the bear pulsed weakly in her grip, its power waning against the relentless tide of shadows. The figure twisted in the dim glow, a grotesque parody of a smile splitting its face. "You think you can save them?" it taunted, voice dripping with scorn. "They're lost already." Jessica felt a wild panic surge through her. Did it know her thoughts? Had it already seeped into their dreams, infesting their minds with fear and despair? She couldn't allow it to take another step. She wouldn't let it claim her children like lost souls. The walls trembled, and with it, so did her will. "No," she screamed, lifting the bear high, eyes ablaze with determination. "You'll never have them." In her heart, she realized this was not just a battle against the dark, it was a fight for her soul, for the very essence of love that transcended all terror. She channeled each fleeting memory: Lily's laughter, Sam's gentle nature, the warmth of their embraces. With brutal intensity, she focused on these images, feeding the bear with everything they meant to her. The light surged, igniting fiercely around them like a molten sun. For a brief moment, the shadows recoiled, revealing countless writhing forms, twisted visages contorted in anguish. "Choose, Jessica." The entity hissed, its voice a horrible melody of torment. "Join me and save yourself. Become part of the darkness." Fear constricted her throat. What lay beyond that threshold? What kind of power awaited her in the abyss? Her heart raced, caught in a tempest of emotions. It was bait, she knew that. It wanted her to doubt, hoped she would hesitate. The darkness thrived on doubt. Lily. Sam. She looked at her children, who were still clutching the remnants of their innocence. "We're stronger than this." She felt the power of their bond surge, radiating like bright lightning, but just as the shadows started to recoil, they lashed out again, furious and ravenous. Jessica staggered, the bear dimming in her grip. "No, Mom." Sam squeaked, his voice strained. Jessica's breath quickened. Panic washed over her. She had to push through this, had to hold her ground. "Stand together," she shouted, her fear transforming into pure fierceness. The shadows clawed at their feet, ominous tendrils of darkness creeping closer, approaching with insidious intention. They were circling in, ready to ensnare, ready to drag them into the void. But in that moment, Jessica found an unexpected resolve. If she failed, she knew what would happen. But if she fought with every ounce of strength left in her, they might just carve a path through the dark. And then, in a single pulse of defiance, she pressed the bear down, letting its light explode outward in a blinding flash, illuminating everything in its wake. The room lit up like the end of a tunnel, and for a split second, she caught a glimpse of something beyond the shadows. A familiar face. "Jessica," it whispered, almost lovingly but laced with dread, and fear rippled through her once more. As she squinted into the bright light, the shadows recoiled, shrieking in fury. The entity's visage twisted, caught in the confrontation between light and darkness, and for an agonizing instant, she felt like she might burst free. But then Lily screamed, the sound piercing her thoughts like a dagger. "Mom, look out!" Something cold reached from the dark, swift and powerful. Time slowed, her heart hammering in terror, as the shadows lunged for her, the shadowy hands curling around her, ready to pull her down. What had she awakened? Jessica braced for impact, knowing the precarious balance between light and shadow hung dangerously in the air. As reality began to splinter around her, she couldn't help but wonder, would her choice seal their fate, or would it unravel everything she held dear? The world went dark. The blinding light from the bear flared out, momentarily pushed back by the shadows, but looked feeble against the sudden darkness closing in. Jessica felt the cold tendrils wrap around her arms, their icy grip threatening to pull her under. Panic surged through her veins. It felt like a rush of ice water freezing her heart. She couldn't lose them. Not now. Hold on to each other, she shouted, her throat raw as she struggled against the encroaching gloom. Lily clutched Sam tightly, eyes brimming with tears. "Mom." Her voice trembled as fear striped it. The shadows hissed in response, vibrating with anticipation, feeding off their dread. Jessica's vision fluttered with flashes of memories, her children laughing, playing in the sun, dancing in the living room, each moment a beacon of warmth against the encroaching chill. She gathered these glimpses, urging them forward, trying to fuse them into something powerful, something to push back against the darkness. "Believe," she screamed, her voice raw and desperate. She could feel the weight of despair pressing against her chest, but she pushed harder, focused on the golden glow of love each moment held. But the shadows pressed closer, slithering around her legs like snakes. They whispered sweet nothings, their voices oily and rippling. "Join us, Jessica, join us, and no peace, no," she cried, shaking her head violently. The darkness throbbed, grabbing at her thoughts, her moments of weakness. Each breath felt heavier, each heartbeat pounded like a drum of surrender. With all her might, Jessica pushed the bear down again, its light sputtering as the shadows lashed at her like angry beasts. It felt like 1,000 knives cutting into her resolve. Each slice sent a shudder of fear coursing through her. "Mom!" Sam's voice broke through the haze of despair. She could feel him slipping away, and in that moment, something primal ignited within her, a mother's wrath emerging from the depths of her dread. "You will not take them," she bellowed, her voice sharper this time, a jagged rock amidst the rolling waves. The shadows abated for an instant, a pause in their relentless hunger. Jessica seized her chance, pulling from the depths of her heart. Memories flooded her, her children's laughter, their wrapped arms around her waist, the sweet sound of bedtime stories. The bear flared back to life, light spilling forth like a radiant fountain. But just then, a chilling laughter echoed around them, low, taunting, cruel. "You're a fool, Jessica. You think love can conquer this? You know their fate and yours." The malevolent voice sent shivers down her spine. Just as the shadows seemed to recede, that familiar face, twisted and tormented, emerged from within the darkness. The figure floated between them and the light, a cruel smile etched in malice across its features. Memories led to a slash of doubt in her heart. Lily screamed again, this time in raw terror. "Don't let it in, Mom." Jessica felt the looming, desperate dread of the shadow encircle them again. What she had awakened was far worse than she could have imagined. The face swirled, melding into chaotic visions that beckoned her to join, to surrender, to let go. It painted a portrait of her greatest fears and most profound guilt, each brushstroke echoing with voices she recognized all too well. "Show me," Jessica demanded, heart racing, spirit faltering just a moment. "If I'm going to die, I will do it fighting." The shadows rippled, presenting a vision that froze her to the core. Moments of failure, pain, and anguish spiraled before her eyes. But among them, one face remained constant, a tether to all she cherished. Her children. "Not my kids," Jessica whispered again, eyes shimmering with determination. In that moment, she steeled herself, each breath a fortified strike against the dread. "I will not give in," she gritted, preparing for a final stand. The shadows crept closer, fangs bared, but as she focused one last time on the bear, its light surged with renewed fury. With a heart of rage and love, she unleashed its glow. The room exploded. In brilliance, but would it be enough? Facing the chaotic embodiment of fear, she asked a chilling question: could the darkness truly be defeated, or was this their final night together? The light erupted like 1,000 suns, searing the shadows, and illuminating the chilling face that sneered at her. Jessica felt the shockwave reverberate through her body, the heat clutching her skin while the dark claws writhed with fury. Her determination built like an unstoppable force, fueled by the frantic breaths of her children. "Come on. Stay close," she urged, reaching for Lily and Sam. The bear flickered brightly, but its glow started to wane, the shadows regrouping, launching themselves back toward them like hungry wolves. With every heartbeat, the warmth began to feel distant, a memory she feared could vanish. Lily clutched her brother tighter, her small frame trembling. "Mom, I don't want to die." The despair in her voice shattered Jessica's heart. "You want tea? We'll get through this together." She fought to keep her voice steady, even as doubt slinked in, threatening to smother her like the shadows. The ghostly figure, ever malleable, twisted and contorted, shifting to exploit their fears. "It's hopeless, Jessica." The words dripped like venom. "They'll never forgive you for what happens next." Jessica felt the weight of guilt pinching at her collarbone, threatening to drag her down. "No," she cried defiantly. "This isn't my fault." She poured her energy into the bear, begging it to shine brighter, willing it to protect her children. The shadows hissed, reacting to her desperation, their whispers growing louder, more seductive. They tugged at her from all sides, lacing her mind with images of despair, flashes of her failures as a mother, moments she thought she could handle everything alone. Each breath she took felt heavier with realization. But Jessica grimaced, focusing on the love she had for her children. "I will not let you win." At that moment, the room quaked. The bear flared in glorious defiance. A blinding barrier formed between them and the encroaching darkness, holding the shadows at bay for the present, but she felt its strength dwindling. "Mom, look out!" Sam shouted, pointing to a mass of darkness surging from behind. An angry tendril surged past the momentary light, aiming straight for Jessica's throat. With a surge of instinct, Jessica swung the bear toward the shadow, directing its beam like a sword of clarity. "You will not take my children." The tendril recoiled, shrieking as the light seared its edges. The grotesque figure shrieked, its beautiful face twisting in agony. "Foolish woman. You think light can protect you? The darkness knows your secrets." The shadows lunged with renewed ferocity, and fear washed over her like icy water. The light flickered, uncertainty gripping her heart. Would it truly keep them safe? Then, with a sudden burst of courage, Jessica wrapped her arms around her children. She felt their warmth against her, the steady rhythm of their hearts mingling with her own. "We are stronger together. Let us fight." As they formed a united front, something shifted in the air. The darkness hesitated, recoiling momentarily. Jessica's heart raced with sudden hope, but that quickly shifted into confusion as she realized the shadows were hesitating or gathering. Then, she saw it. A part of the darkness began to merge with the light, intertwining, creating an unsettling dance of energy, a new entity forming, something neither light nor dark. "What are you doing?" She gasped, fear seeping into her bones. The figure burbled with a sinister laugh. "You don't know what you have awakened, Jessica." "Not yet." As the confrontation escalated and the boundaries between their worlds began to blur, despair etched itself deep into her mind. This battle was far from over. What had she unleashed? And even as her heart strained to grasp hope, a chilling thought crawled into her mind: was the worst yet to come? Before she could process anything further, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air, sending ripples of dread surging through her. Who had screamed? And what would it mean for their fate? "Lily!" she called, panic welling up again, her eyes darting in every direction, seeking the shadows for any sign of her daughter. But the darkness only responded with its mocking echoes. She could feel it. Something terrible was about to happen, and they were right in the heart of it. The shadows twisted violently, blurring together in a whirlwind of darkness that threatened to engulf them. Jessica gritted her teeth, ready to fight with every ounce of strength left in her. "Stay close. We can't let it pull us apart." But the shadows weren't just an enemy, they were manipulators, feeding off her fear. The whirling mass surrounded them, tendrils lashing out in chaotic patterns, reaching for her children's hearts like ravenous spirits. A wave of chill rushed through her, prickling her skin, as if the shadows had sent a jolt of ice into her veins. The screech of despair echoed again, warping in the air. It was so potent, so filled with anguish, that it made the walls themselves shudder in sympathy. Jessica's heart dropped. It wasn't just a scream. It was a cry of pain, and it struck at the core of her being. "Lily!" She screamed again, desperation colorating her voice. "Mom!" Lily's voice trembled from somewhere in the midst of the swirling black, barely reaching her ears. Jessica's breath caught. "Lily! Where are you?" Panic clawed at her throat as she felt the shadows close in tighter, wrapping around her legs like chains. The warmth of the bear flickered, teetering on the edge of extinguishment. Shadows snarled, slick and vile, inching closer, drunk on her terror. Another scream tore through the air, terrified and sorrowful. "Sam!" Jessica yelled, frantic, eyes darting through the murky haze, searching for her son. The shadows had already detached their tendrils and were lashing toward Sam. As if sensing her distress, tendrils formed slashing shapes, sinister and twisted. They regrouped into an even thicker mass. Jessica felt the primal urge to run, but she stood frozen, fearing that movement would send her children further into the abyss. "Stop!" she screamed, defiance breaking the surface of her panic. "You don't have power over us." In response, a hollow laugh echoed around her. "You think the darkness fears you? It thrives on your weakness, your dread." Let the memory surface. The shadows pulsed and twisted, teasing her with glimpses of painful past moments, lost hopes, lost smiles, and regrets that festered in the hidden corners of her mind. "Shut up. You don't control me," Jessica cried, forcing her will against the suffocating anxiety. She clutched the bear tighter, willing the light to flare, to pulse with brilliance that would pierce through this despair. But the shadows pressed on, relentless. They coiled around her and she felt their icy fingers trace along her spine, drawing the warmth from her muscles. Panic swelled, she could sense her children slipping further away. "No! No!" A roaring desperation engulfed her as she refused to let go. The suffocating weight of the dark laughter pressed in. "They're ours now. Little pets to join the darkness. They'll never see again." In that moment, Jessica's heart raced with something primal and pure mama bear rage. She bent down, screaming into the void. "Get away from my kids!" The bear erupted into brilliant light once more, a desperate pulse illuminating every dark corner of the room as the shadows hissed in agony. It became an all-consuming flare, and in that instant, Jessica saw her children were not lost. They were right there, tethered by a bond stronger than the haunting darkness. Suddenly, a familiar voice chimed through, casting a different kind of doubt. "Mom, help us." It was Lily, clear as day, but accompanied by a chilling laughter that seemed too close, too intimate. With wide eyes, Jessica turned toward the source and saw it. The entity created from emerging darkness and light was entire. A figure wreathed in dark luster, mocking her with eyes that glimmered like stars, lit by something more than hope. "You've given birth to me." The voice floated through the air, silky and sinister. "Now, it is time to find out who truly controls what lies beneath." Jessica's body went rigid. The terrible realization settled in her. If that entity had come alive, what does that mean for her children? The shrill sound of laughter filled the air, and in one brief moment of clarity, she understood their fight was only just beginning. As the shadows began circling them once more, she steeled herself for the worst. What power did this monster hold? And could she truly face what crept in the depths of her own mind? The air thickened, electric with impending doom. The entity leaned in, as if to whisper secrets only she could hear. What truth lay hidden within its inky veil? Jessica could barely breathe as the reality loomed heavy over them. What had she awakened, and at what cost? The room pulsated with an unholy energy, vibrating with the echoes of despair and terror. Jessica felt the weight of the newly formed entity standing before her, a grotesque mixture of light and shadow, mocking her with its existence. She stood firm, but deep inside, uncertainty gnawed at her heart. "Do you think you can overcome me?" The amalgamation sneered, its voice silky smooth with an edge of cruel laughter. "You welcomed this darkness, Jessica. You nurtured it. Now, you must face the consequences." The shadows thrummed around her, suffocating and alive. But within that choking grip, something kindled inside Jessica, a fire ignited by love, unwavering and fierce. "I want to let you take them," she spat, determination coursing through her veins. "I'll fight you with everything I am." The bear pulsed in her grip, its light flickering bravely against the encroaching darkness. Breathless whispers coiled around her, a chorus of sorrowful cries tugging at her heart. "Mom! Help us, please!" Lily's voice rang out, clear and desperate. "Hold on. I'm coming," Jessica shouted back. The realization struck her. The entity was here because of her, because of the childhood pain she had buried, broken dreams darting at the edges of her awareness. This was a fight against her past, against the shadows that thrived on her fears. With a fierce heartbeat, she refocused. "You're just a manifestation of my doubts," she yelled, her voice ringing with defiance and clarity. "You think you can consume me? You think I'm afraid?" The entity shifted, a look of annoyance flashing through the darkened features. "Fear is what keeps you alive, yet your fear feeds me. You can't sever that bond, it's too late." "No. It's never too late," Jessica screamed, channeling her pain into the bear. The golden glow around it brightened, shimmering against the dark. "I am more than my fears." The shadows recoiled as the light surged, powerful and unwavering, but a sharp shadow lash snaked toward her, seeking to break her focus. Jessica felt herself wobble, but she kept her grip tight. "Look at the truth, Jessica," the figure whispered, its voice smooth as silk but dripping with malice. "You are alone. All you have done has led to this dark moment." Within her mind, memories flared alive, the moments of doubt, of loneliness. She fought against the power it wielded, determined to shape her destiny. "No. I have my children. I love them. I protect them. Do they truly love you, dear?" It hissed, sibilant tones wrapping around her heart. "Or do they only feel your anger? Your fears?" Jessica roared, ripping through the shadows with the glowing bear. "You will not twist their love into your lies." The light exploded outward, crashing into the entity, illuminating the room with a blinding glow. The shadows screeched in agony, swirling chaotically, losing form. Suddenly, Jessica saw Lily's small hand reaching through the darkness. "Mom! I can't hold on!" Lily cried, her tiny voice strained. Without hesitation, Jessica charged forward, arms stretched out. "I'm here. I'm right here." Holding her breath, she dove into the swirling dark, the shadows wrapping around her like a cocoon, chilling her to the bone. But there, just beyond, she spotted her daughter. "I want to let you go," Jessica yelled, stretching out her hand, catching hold of Lily's small wrist. With one powerful pulse, the bear erupted with brilliance, illuminating everything around them. Sam was there too, his frightened expression anchoring her even deeper. "Grab my hand. Both of you." Jessica felt the spark of hope lingering in the air. "Together, we're so much stronger than the darkness." As they gripped hands, the shadows swirled in chaos, the combined light of their love shining brighter than any darkness could quell. The entity shrieked, twisting and writhing, its form breaking apart under the weight of their united bond. "All the pain. All the hurt," it screeched, melting into nothingness. "You can't erase me." The golden light surged, burst forth like a star, searing through the very essence of the darkness. The overwhelming energy twisted into a singular point, creating a devastating wave of illumination that consumed all. In that glorious moment, every secret fear, every painful memory, every doubt, splintered and shattered. Jessica felt a swirling cauldron of energy surround them, lifting their spirits. "No! This is my choice!" she yelled, as the entity dissipated into a haze of shadows, vanished forever. With one final explosion, the darkness faded, and the light enveloped the room in a comforting glow. Jessica opened her eyes, breathless, as she found herself on the floor, hugging her children tightly. "Mom, did we win?" Lily whispered, her small voice flickering with hope. Jessica kissed their foreheads, her heart swelling with relief. "We did, sweethearts. We fought together. And we'll always fight together." The weight of the house lifted, and the palpable darkness melted away, leaving behind a warm sense of safety. Jessica could finally feel peace settling in like the dawn after a dark night. As they gathered around the bear, now a mere toy, a promise echoed in their hearts. They were free, united, ready to face whatever came next. Together, they could illuminate the shadows, knowing they were stronger than any darkness. Jessica smiled, heart full. "Let us get you two some hot chocolate." You've both earned it. As they walked through the house for the last time, she took a deep breath, releasing the burdens of the past. The shadows that once haunted the Matthews house were gone, replaced with memories of laughter and warmth, brighter than the dark ever could be. Their laughter faded back into the night, a wave of hope cascading through Willow Creek, echoing with the rich promise of new beginnings bright as the morning sun. Remember, friends, if you enjoyed this roller coaster of a journey, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss our next exclusive adventures. Smash the like button to show your support and help feed the algorithm. Flood the comments with your reactions. What do you think will happen next? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans know how crucial it is to support the channel. Let's keep this journey alive together.